Hey everyone, this is James from TDB bringing you another Inbetweenisode. Today I am going to be talking about some Taobao picks. If you have been paying attention to the blog, this is something that I already released, so if you have seen that article, these are the same suggestions there. So going to be just kind of supplementing that, adding a bit more information around there, as well as talking more just kind of direct to the camera about those. So yeah, check out that article. In the article, I do talk a bit about like how to buy the teas, how you can do it. So I don't want to go too much into that, but the appeal of Taobao is something like you just have an absolutely massive selection of different teas. There are all kinds of teas that we don't have access to. We get a very select amount of teas here in the West. And so sometimes it's fun to see what there is out there beyond that. So I talk a couple about some picks. It's obviously hard to traverse all of Taobao and land on exactly the perfect picks, but I talked about some that could be worth buying depending on what you're after. So there's a couple different ways to buy. The first way is the very direct method where you are able to sign up for an account. So this is something that probably could deserve 20 minutes on its own, and something where I also don't feel totally qualified to go into it because I signed up for my account over a decade ago, and I think that allows me a little more leeway as far as access and whatnot. I've also spent a fair bit of money directly on my account, which I think kind of marks me as not being a bot or a spammer or something like that. So I've run into relatively little issues as far as like just using my account. The Taobao app is quite good. I do recommend using that. A lot of people have better luck with using that than a kind of browser. I use both. I'll use the app as well as Chrome. Chrome is nice because you can translate the Chinese there. But anyways, even if you do use Taobao Direct, unless they will ship directly to you, which they will not for the US, for tea at least, you will need to use an agent. The two most popular ones are SuperBuy, which is probably the more popular one, a little more English friendly, a little more customer service. I think they're bigger, and ShipForwarder. I actually use ShipForwarder. Currently, there are a couple different just ways you can ship it, and it will depend on the forwarder. I believe for SuperBuy, you can even do the sea freight, which takes longer and is cheaper. EMS is the fastest, but it's also more expensive. For ShipForwarder, there's usually Guangzhou e-packet, which is for packages under 2 kilograms. That tends to be the most economical. So one common strategy is to buy 3 to 4 cakes, so just under 2 kilos, and have that shipped with e-packet, which is pretty fast. It's a few weeks or so. EMS is what you'll have to do if your packages get bigger or if you just want like nicer shipping. I estimate in this article that you would pay about 3 cents to 5 cents per gram. That is subject also to just kind of volume concerns. So if you buy something that's really voluminous and doesn't fit very well, or it has a big box that you want to get shipped, then that's going to potentially add some shipping cost as well. So it really can depend. If you don't want to sign up for an account or aren't able to, you can literally just copy paste links into SuperBuy. SuperBuy tries to have this kind of browser where you can like kind of go around the different Taobao stores, but I hear that it breaks quite often. So it usually is preferred that you have a Taobao account. But in this case, if you have the links, you could just paste them into SuperBuy and they will buy them for you. You basically fund the agent by sending them money, and then they will use that money to pay for the goods. I also strongly recommend joining a Discord. It's just nice to have a community of people who have tried different things, can give you different recommendations. Everyone's looking for something a little bit different on Taobao, and not everyone is perfectly aligned. So my picks are very much kind of have to do with what I'm after, and there are a lot of teas that I'm not personally interested in. Like I'm not too interested in like death roasts and stuff like that, but a lot of people are. So you can get good recommendations depending on who you ask there. So I recommend just kind of joining that so you have sort of a community where you can ask certain questions too, because I'm certainly not going to answer everything on this video. Not that I'm even capable of that. Okay, so let's get into some of the recommendations. This is actually a tea that I did buy on Taobao, the Purple Peacock, last year, but it is no longer available, so cannot recommend that. First up, I have the 2007 Dayi Anxiang, which is the secret fragrance, is how it's often translated. You can actually find this from a number of sellers. I bought mine from a dealer called Chen Tong, who is a Dayi dealer. They tend to have they depending on the tea, they sometimes have a little bit lower prices than other Dayi dealers do. They are based in southern China. For me, at least, I prefer my tea to be coming from somewhere that's further south, which tends to be hotter and humid rather than north, like Beijing or Shanghai or whatnot. So I will usually select for that. That's also not necessarily a guarantee that the tea has been stored there, but you do what you can to sort of tilt things in your favor. So nonetheless, this is a higher end ripe. So this one cost me about $65 for 400 grams. That's about 16 cents per gram. It used to be actually quite a bit higher priced, but Dayi prices have fallen, which makes it a fairly viable target for Taobao. And I like this tea a lot. I think it compares very well with kind of the boutique ripes that have come out from other vendors, and it is a fraction of the price of the higher end stuff from like white tea or Hai Long Hao, for instance. And this one has just really, really nice antique wood profile. So it really hits a lot of the boxes for me. A little bit on the cheaper side of things, I have a 7562 brick from Chentong that I can also heartily recommend. I was turned on to this one by Phobos. A little bit less of a quote-unquote premium tea, but these old ripes definitely can bring some stuff to the table that you're not getting as much. A lot of that, I think, has to do with how production quantity ramped up, and so you're just getting lesser and lesser material the further along you go. This is particularly true for the mid-2000s, where each year it's very sensitive. Like, they made more tea in 2005 than 2004, more tea in 2006 than 2005, definitely more tea in 2007, which kind of your bust year. And so there's a lot of kind of mediocre tea that gets made, and so you're looking at something like 2007 is extremely different quantity-wise than 2004, even though it just came a few years before. Next up I have, this one is also from Chentong, the 2015 Purple. This one has kind of drawn a lot of eyeballs. People are very interested in this cake. And it's seen partly as kind of like a decent tea to age. It costs similar price to the Anxiang, about $67, 357 grams. And yeah, it's a decent tea. This is not one that I personally feel the need to stock up on, but this is definitely one that I think a lot of people do like quite a bit. The processing is a little bit different just because it comes a few years after Dayi has changed their processing a bit. So the rolling, for instance, is a little bit lighter here, but I think it's a nice sturdy profile. I think it'll age okay. Next up, unfortunately, this is one of the two that has sold out since then, but you can still find this tea around. This is the Liming Yayun. I bought mine from Pu'er Yo Xuantang, which I forget exactly what that translates to. But you can find it from a bunch of vendors between $100 and $125. So one of the dangers of Taobao, of course, is that the storage can differ, and different people have different experiences with them. So some of the alternatives, I do recommend sampling or buying a sample cake or whatnot before you go in and buy a bunch of different cakes. People have had some mixed experiences with them, but it is definitely one that is around for $100 to $125. The original cake I bought was actually from MXT, which we will get to in a little bit later. Okay, next up is the Blue Peacock from Yoshantang, so from the same vendor. Nice value on this. If you are a fan of the kind of Boulong double liony profile, I think you can get somewhat of the way there for kind of a fraction of the price here with this tea. Definitely old school Boulong, a bit smoky, kind of get some of that incense flavor coming. It's just sort of a different flavor of that kind of Boulong one. It feels like a cousin to double lions. It's not exactly the same, but it's definitely related. Okay, so we're going to keep going here. Next up, we have the 2003 and 2004 Xiaguan Jiajis. You can also find the 2005. These are all coming from MX. And these are all subject to kind of what I was saying, too, about like production quantity changing. So things are just very sensitive year by year, especially when you look at here, where the 2003 is considerably more expensive, but also better than the 2004. And the same holds true for 2005. And as you go further down the years, you'd be surprised how big the price difference is for something like 2007 versus 2003. So yeah, this is just a really nice way to try a very unpretentious workhorse tea from Xiaguan. They do a good job of always pretty much stocking the 2004 or the 2005, so those are almost always available. 2003 is rare, so it's definitely possible that this could sell out sometime soon. And I think this is, like the 8653, a great reference to have when it comes to Xiaguan. The final one I was going to talk about is the Gold Ribbon Red Eye. This one sadly has sold out from MX. It's one of those Xiaguans that's a little smoother. You could call it a Shino, a Xiaguan in name only tea. But this is a pretty decent tea, and I do think it shines a bit above kind of later productions that would come. It's made by XY, which is a company that's made a bunch of different teas, like the Xiaguan Jiaji Tuo from 2001, the Big Green Cheese from a couple of years before that. This one's a little bit less pretentious than those, but yeah, it's one that you will see pop up now and then. And I think the 2004 Gold Ribbon, definitely kind of one of those unsung teas. Okay, so that's me just talking through 7 of these teas that I talked about there. Hopefully that can teach you a little bit about my thought process there. A vendor like MXT I bought from for years, very reliable Xiaguan vendor. One of the big things ways they provide value is just having very good storage, and part of that is probably their storage themselves, but another part is what they select for. And Taobao storage is certainly not a given. There's a reason why Marshall and others have called it kind of the Taobao lottery, because sometimes you're just not sure exactly what you're going to get. So you definitely should not assume that these things are going to come through all the way. MX, in my experience, has been very reliable in terms of the storage at the very least. They stock things that will potentially sell out quite quickly, probably because they don't have very much stock of it. So it can be helpful to check their newest listings and just see if there's something interested. Those in particular tend to get cycled out, whereas they kind of have like a separate list of kind of core listings that they've had listed for quite some while. So yeah, that just about wraps up this In-Betweenisode. Thank you all for tuning in. Let me know how you liked it. Let me know if you have tried out Taobao and what your experience has been. And hopefully this can give you a nice place to get started. Check out that article as well on TDB. Cheers.